Welcome, everybody, to the Chinchilla Pickin' Podcast. It is April the 6th, 2025 at 2:24 p.m. As always, we hope to be entertaining, educational, and uplifting because we want everyone to make money. My name is David Underwood, and I'm joined by the one and only Brandon Beaver. Brandon, how are you, man?
I already have a headache from our tariffs conversation, and after this, I'm going to go into my safe space and read some Murray Rothbard.
All right, so let me give our listeners some background. After last week's show, Brandon and I have been trolling each other in group chats all week, constantly, even past midnight, sending text messages just because we can't stop. So basically, if you're listening right now and you didn't hear last week's show, we begun a discussion on tariffs where Brandon and I differed, and him and I continued off the show all week long. And so we're just continuing the conversation that we started last week. Um, but before we get into that, there are other things that happened this week, right? No? Yeah? No?
Oh yeah, maybe, whatever.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Everybody wants to talk about it. Let's get into it. Rules. Brandon and I get together 5 to 10 minutes before the show, and we tell each other what we're going to talk about. No need today. You hear the back and forth, the bicker and the banter right here on the show for you. What we're going to talk about is tariffs, and hopefully keep it centered around how it's going to affect our businesses, our stock market, our financial institutions, how we make money. We could even talk treasuries because that's all related as well.
Yeah.
But there you go, Brand. I'll let you get the first word, Brandon,
Uh,
because I know I want to say stuff. I know you want to say stuff. Go ahead. You can lead us off.
Before we get into this completely, I want to say something that we might both agree on.
Okay.
For the past year, Warren Buffett has been selling stocks, right? And and
Yes, he
and
has.
a lot of
He's
us
been
have been,
exiting positions and building a cash reserve.
oh, boy, a lot of people have been questioning that and saying, why is he doing this? And again, I mean, whether this is luck or skill on his part, again, it turns out that so far he's right.
If he buys in, and I'll get to
If he
that in a
buys in at
second.
lows, yeah.
I have like four different articles that just came out in the last 24 hours that will have a better example of my position on these.
Okay.
But if he buys in, yes.
I want to ask you a question
Go
here.
ahead.
So, if restricting imports to a country makes it wealthier by bringing manufacturing back to that country, then how come Iran and Venezuela aren't the richest countries in the world?
Do they
Eh,
have all their manufacturing done
eh,
in country?
I mean, let
I
me
don't
ask.
know. Do
I
they?
mean, but all of the European Union and North America and the United States allies pass sanctions against them all the time to tell people not to trade with them, to make them poorer and to punish them. Why aren't we saying everybody needs to trade with Iran because that would hurt them if that was the case? If imports hurt a country, then why aren't we importing more to Iran or exporting more to Iran?
All right. So number one, I I like I like true free trade.
Okay,
The United States
we're
hasn't
not
had
going in that
true.
direction.
The United States has not had true free trade with any country that I'm aware of within the past decade. I'm not aware of any. I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, please DM, let me know, or Brandon, correct me now. But I'm not aware that we've had true free trade with anybody.
Sure, because a lot of these other countries have self-imposed sanctions called tariffs that
Like
we're
so,
now doing as well.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And that's what they
That
are. So,
we are starting to do. Most of them have not gone into effect yet.
right, right. But there's not going to be a positive economic outcome from this. Otherwise, we would have seen Iran's GDP rise incrementally, or at least exponentially, even maybe, or Venezuela's the same thing. Every time we pass
Um,
a sanction against them and say that we're not going to trade with you, then they should be building up their own economics and doing a
so,
lot better if
well,
that's the way it works.
if you want a clearer picture of my position, can I get to my articles real quick? You know, my articles only take
That's
two, three
fine.
minutes.
That's
They
fine.
only take 2 to 3 minutes each. I
Yeah.
go through these articles really quick. Um, First one. This came out yesterday at 1:21 p.m. on the Reuters Newswire. The headline reads: Musk, Elon Musk says he hopes for zero tariffs between U.S. and Europe. So Musk, being famous for being a big part of this administration as an advisor, as stepping in and running Doge. This is a quote from Musk. At the end of the day, I hope it's agreed that both Europe and the United States should move ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. There's been many countries in Europe, such as Italy, who is the third largest importer into the United States from the European Union, who has said that they are looking to make a deal with the United States and cut all tariffs if we do the same. This is one of many countries. Next one, Taiwan. This is a article that came out this morning, 8:13 a.m. Headline reads: Taiwan eyes zero tariffs with U.S. and pledges even more investment. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te on Sunday offered zero tariffs as a basis, a beginning part, Brandon, for talks with the U.S., pledging to remove all trade barriers rather than imposing reciprocal measures, saying that Taiwanese companies will raise their U.S. investments that they already have. Taiwan Semiconductor already announced last month, before all this, an additional $100 billion investment. So I could continue with these headlines that all come out the past 24 to 36 hours or 48 hours. I'll say 1 to 2 days. We'll just put it that
I
way.
hope that's the case, but I've never heard Trump say that he wants to reduce tariffs this
So
entire time. In fact, I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast saying that tariffs are a beautiful thing.
I mean, come, this is that's Trump's go-to, if you will.
And then I
It's his
also heard him
go-to
say
to
that
continue that hardline position until he gets what he wants, and then he backs off.
I've also heard him say that the policies against China are going to remain the same as long as he's president.
And here's the thing with that is China is playing a reciprocal tariffs, and that is actually looking like it will be a Chinese U.S. trade war. But majority, I have headline after headline. I could continue reading about countries coming to the table in the last 48 hours, willing to strike a deal and cut all tariffs. And that's a quote from these reporters, articles from various sources. And I could give anyone the links. It's
I,
all out there on the web.
I
But
hope I hope it's the case. But right now, what we're doing is we're making educated guesses and trying to read Trump's mind. And the problem with that is when people don't know, they tend to hold on to their money before they spend it. They're
well,
not
here
going to spend any money right now until we get a clear path forward. And if we go a long period of time without a clear path forward, that itself could put us into a recession.
So the stock market started moving lower when they didn't know what was going to happen with the tariffs. When the tariffs were finally announced, everybody saw the numbers. Stock market sold off, right? So that is what happened. It's already in the past. We know that to be a fact and true, right? The Trump administration has imposed these tariffs that not all of them has started right away. Some are yet to start. Some have even longer before they start. However, with all these countries coming to the United States to make deals, that to me shows a signal that, I believe that, and this is again me guessing because I don't know the current administration. I can't see inside their heads, but that shows me that, they're going to get what they want, which is true free trade between multiple countries. And once other countries that are more hard line see that these countries are getting the tariffs dropped, I have a feeling that they'll also come to the table and come to some agreements.
Yeah. Well,
And
I
the
hope it's
ones that
yeah.
are putting up the biggest wall and going publicly and saying, no, this is a fight. We're going to fight till we're done. They're the ones who are going to suffer the most.
Yeah. There's a podcast called Uncommon Knowledge from the Hoover Institution and Stanford University. And on April 15th, they're going to release an interview with Thomas Sowell, who's one of the best economists that's ever existed in the entire world, ever. One of my favorites of all time. And they've already released a piece of the interview with him. and where he was saying that it's painful for him to see us go down the same route with the tariffs. You know, you said I was going to say Smoot Hawley, and I wasn't planning on it, but I'm saying it. And he mentioned the Smoot Hawley Act, how it exacerbated the Great Depression. But he said at the same time, once Franklin Roosevelt took over, who he's not very fond of himself, but he said that once Franklin Roosevelt took over, he continued with the tariffs, but at that point in time, he implemented very clear rules for when we were going to be reducing tariffs against other countries and what they would have to do if they came to the table. And I wish Trump would do the same. I wish if we had a very clear rules based tariff kind of economic situation, I think the market would be a lot more okay with what's going on, and people would be a lot less panicked.
So here's my thing, Brandon, and this is how I see what I this is what I've seen Trump based off previous experience watching and trying to figure out what he's doing, right? So let's say I have this bottle of a water right here that I'm drinking, right? And I'm saying that, hey, Brandon, I'm going to withhold this from you, and I make clear rules. I say it's $10, and you're going to come back and say, well, I only got six, and so now I have to go down to eight, and then you're going to come back and go to seven, whatever, right? We negotiate, right? But if I tell you I have this bottle of water, I want you to make me an offer. And I'm not going to say a word until you make me an offer. And then I'm going to tell you whether or not it's good enough. That's different. Now all the power's in my hands because you want the water. And so that's why I believe he's being unclear about what he wants because he needs them to come to the table and make the offers first.
And they also need to know that he's not acting in bad faith. You know, if you say you only have $6, but you've really got 10 and you're just trying to screw the other person, that other person, if they get a hint of that, they're just going to walk on and find another customer. And they're not going to want to do business with you because you're going to be dishonest. So, there's all kinds of
Unfortunately, right now, the way the global economy's set up is most everybody has to do business with the United States.
well, it's not unfortunate for us.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's fortunate for us, but unfortunate for the rest of the world. They have to. If they want to be profitable, they have to do business here. And that's why they're pissed off. And that's why they're angry. And that's why they're upset. And it's because we hold all the money and all the cards. And if you want our money, then, you know, let's renegotiate.
Well, we've already had some negative effects here. I want to go into some specifics here. So,
Careful.
International Recycling Group canceled a $300 million plastics recycling plant in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's one of the things that Trump wants to do is bring manufacturing back here to the United States, right? But the
Yeah.
problem is that these steel imports that are going up higher in cost are actually like causing these construction estimates to go significantly higher, and they're causing new manufacturing plants to be canceled. So $300 million plastic plants in Erie, Pennsylvania from International Recycling canceled because of expectations of substantially higher project development costs than anticipated. Earth Breeze, which makes detergent sheets for washing machines, they're investing nearly $6 million in a Kentucky factory that will replace a Chinese contract manufacturer. They'll create more than 200 U.S. jobs. They're going to continue going forward, which is great, but they're going to have a bill for imported machinery that tariffs could drive up by $250,000. So that's more than a couple of jobs there. Um, so after Trump announced tariffs on steel and aluminum in February, construction firm Skankska, which is a hilarious name, estimated that cost of metal panels, metal studs, structural steel would rise around 20% to 30% over the next year. Plumbing equipment prices could rise as much as 10%, drywall as much as 20%, alongside higher costs for electrical gear such as generators,
So hey,
HVAC equipment, roofing products, and installations. One second. The new tariffs could add to these increases. This is estimations, don't get me wrong, but these people are holding on to their money more in order to save for these possible costs as a result. That's hurting the U.S. economy at the moment.
so for our listeners' sake, Brandon's. I want to clarify, and I know you already said it, but I'm going to clarify again. You're listing off a bunch of like possible price increases that might maybe happen that a lot of people are pushing out there as a narrative that this is and they're wording it and slanting it in a way that this is a for sure thing, which is not. And there's no guarantee of these price increases. In fact, they may never happen. So, for a publication, a media source to publish them,
I'll
in
preach
my
on it.
mind, that is very deceitful, and
It's not.
you're trying to lead the listener to a certain viewpoint that you want them to have, and you're not being honest.
No,
You know,
a lot of the economy is based off expectations, including the stock market. I'm not buying a company for what they're doing today. I'm buying the company for what I think they'll be doing in the next couple of years. So those expectations are important. And now that they're up in the air and we don't know what's going to happen, then that's another reason why people are putting money into the savings account rather than investing in the stock market and buying these dips or, purchasing new factories if they're a company.
a lot of people are buying the dips. A lot of
That's it.
people on Friday, a lot of people I talked to bought the dips, and
But
I feel based off these articles I keep reading that have come out over the last 24 to 48 hours, I think they did the right thing by buying these dips. I think the if we continue to have these news come out of more countries come in, and specifically if the administration actually starts making deals with them and drops the tariffs after the very first one deal is made and the tariffs are dropped, the stock market will jump right back up, and the people who bought the dips will seem like the smartest people in the room.
it's going to be very, very, very volatile. But yeah, you're right. If that happens, it'll be good
When that
for the
happens,
economy.
when that happens, everybody's
Um,
saying when these price increases are coming up and that they haven't happened yet, and it's just a possibility, but they're saying when. I'm saying when on the opposite. And, I
the
think that
longer
that's what's going to happen.
the longer this drags out, the more damage that we're going to see, though.
The
I
more lower
hope it
the
doesn't drag
stock
out.
market moves, which is the more money you'll make if you buy.
I want to get to that because I'm not telling people necessarily to sell.
Good, because I
I
got a couple Warren Buffett quotes that show that this is a great time to buy.
I do want
Peter
people to
Lynch
build up.
released had a video that was going all over TikTok, and I sent it to you. Talks about the market corrections happen all the time. That even
I
25% corrections happen every now and then.
I
That
I
these are times to buy.
I do want people to build up 6 months of savings just in case. That way, if we do go into a recession, you don't have to spend, you don't have to sell your stocks at the ultimate lows. For a reason that's out of your control, you can go into your savings account, let those stocks sit because they're going to go grow back over time.
Well, I mean, I agree with having the 6 months of savings just in general. So I agree with that statement, but I agree you should have that always in times of prosperity and recession.
Yeah. In the meantime, I mean, so this gets tough for me, but I was looking at Reliance and Rio Tinto. They're I run most of the time every week. Usually I don't, sometimes I miss it and I don't run my stock screener and I fail, but usually once a week I run a stock screener for value stocks with a return on equity over 15%. So these are companies that have been beaten down but have good balance sheets, right? Reliance, Reliance Inc. is a good one. I think they had declining sales in 2023 and 2024, but I think they're going to pick it back up. Um, so I would just want to talk a little bit about them. Founded in 1939, they're the largest metal service center company in North America. This is from CFRA's stock report, by the way. Their sales represents, let's see, this is more than 100,000 metal products, including carbon, alloy, stainless steel, specialty steel, aluminum, brass, copper products, more than 125,000 customers in a broad range of industries. One cool thing about Reliance is that they're so diversified that no single customer represents more than 3% of their sales. Um,
Thanks.
but they're globally diversified, so they're going to be hurt by reciprocal tariffs. But what should balance it out at the same time is the tariffs here in the United States are going to help them grow their domestic base. So I kind of want to pick out, there's going to be a few industries that benefit from Trump's tariffs. There's going to be a whole lot of them that don't.
Yeah, and
But
I want to, sorry, I want to backtrack to a statement you made about steel. And I think the problem with people using steel and steel tariffs and all that in the current situation is not a good one to blame on the current administration. I believe the Japanese deal with Nippon Steel should have gone through, and that was
Yes.
blocked by the last administration, the Biden administration, and that there was nothing that the current administration could have done when they took office in January to stop that from happening. And when the tariffs went in place, I think all of that was just a bad move all around with the steel industry. I think they should have allowed Nippon Steel to make the purchase. Nippon Steel was saying that they were going to keep the American factories going, and they weren't going to get rid of them. They weren't going to close them. They were making those promises. I think that was a bad deal all around.
Yeah, I do too. And the Biden administration was not much better than the Trump administration on tariffs. So, um, sales by product and service for Reliance, 54% steel, 16% aluminum, stainless steel's around 15%, and then alloys around 4.8%. Toll processing and logistics about 4.1%, copper and brass 2.1%, and other is 2.1% as well.
I work out with a guy at my gym, and he works in the steel industry on a global scale. And I asked him, I said, of the last, not these past tariffs this past week, but the tariffs, I'm specifically talking about the steel that went into effect because of the Nippon deal and everything. I asked him, how's that affecting your business? And he said, well, right now it's great because everybody wants to buy as much steel as possible before it gets more expensive. And
Okay.
that was about a month and a half ago. And I haven't asked him since. But he was telling me, like, right now we're having great sales. We're selling as much steel as we can move. Are we concerned? I said, are you concerned about tariffs going forward? He said, maybe, but you always need steel.
Yeah, I also read an article too that said that shoppers were rushing to spend before the recession.
That's
It's
ridiculous
the most
too.
ironic thing I've ever read in my life. I don't have a good outlook for these tariffs right now, so I do want people to save up their money, but that seemed very ironic to me. It's very counterintuitive. I'm going to spend all the money I have because we're doing badly. I don't.
Yeah, I
That
want to
was,
buy stuff now. Like, let
yeah,
me buy it now, and that makes no sense to me either, Brandon. I don't get it. I don't understand how a lot of people think. But that's their prerogative, man. If you feel that that's what you need to do, I would rather you put that money away and invest it in something secure and solid and isn't gonna move or fluctuate much during these volatile times. My two dividend stocks I own, I have one dividend ETF I own that's very volatile, but I have two dividend stocks I own that are not that volatile, that stay pretty steady, and they pay me a hefty dividend. And
right,
I mentioned them on the show before. It's ARCC and MO. Those two stocks they don't move and they pay me a nice dividend. Do I have a large percentage of my portfolio in them? No, but I have a good percentage in there.
right.
And it keeps me solid. I can always count every 3 months from each one of those stocks. Here comes my dividend check. Boom, DCA on something if I'm down. Done.
See, and I'm using this. I don't, people shouldn't panic. You should never panic. It never bodes well to panic.
Right?
Um, Look back at the bear market of 2022. I made the most of my money that I've made in the past 5 years off that bear market because stocks were so beaten down that I was able to pick up some winners. And a lot of my gains actually came from between 2022 and 2023, which is when the Dow Jones Industrials chart looks completely sideways.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember I remember those years because you and I were talking on the show and we were doing okay the first half of the year through May. We were doing okay, but then both of us in June just blew it away. I was sitting there, I made so much money and I was like, I don't need to do anything the rest of the year. I,
right,
I hit my goals. Like this is
right.
this is crazy. I'm done
Now,
with we're in July and I'm like I could just sit back and play cards the rest of the year and I would have hit my yearly goals.
yeah, even the worst of the worst. So let's go back to the Great Depression. If you look at the chart of the Great Depression,
Which starts before
1929,
the Smoot Hawley, by the way.
1928, 19, well, Smoot-Hawley technically started in 29, but
No, it started in 1930. Sorry.
it's 1929 to 1930 tariffs that are included in it. But 1928, I think, was the peak of the Dow Jones, which was around like 300 and something, is what where it was at the time. It took all the way until I think it was 1950 for us to get back to that. So there was a whole period of not reaching the highs again in the American stock market, but there was all kinds of money still to make in the 30s and the 40s if you were picking the right stocks. And if you've got a long-term outlook, even if you do have a period of a decade or two, which would really suck, but if it was, that's all kinds of time for you to dollar cost average down and buy stocks at a good discount and put a ton of money into it. Go ahead, Dave.
I also will say at that time that um, there was not a thing of 401ks everywhere. There was no 529s everywhere. There was none. Not every single person that you could nowadays. I can't throw a rock without hitting somebody that has a 401k, a Robinhood account, or something else. And the way money moves nowadays, it moves so fast, so quick, and so much that you're never going to see the whole stock market take 20 years to regain ever again,
I hope
in my
not.
opinion.
I hope
Yeah,
not.
I mean, when our next recession, because it's eventually going to happen, but our next bad recession, when it goes down, it will probably regain with this in a few years.
Yeah,
And that's just the way money moves nowadays. And, it's eventually going to happen. Do I think it's going to happen this year? Man, I don't know. I was looking at some numbers, Brandon. I've come on the show and I've been very consistent. I'm not bearish until I see certain numbers move in certain ways, right?
yeah.
And I've started to see two of those numbers have started to move, and I'm watching it. They haven't quite yet hit the marks where I'm ready to call bear, but they've started to move.
And that's interesting. But speaking of the Great Depression too, I like to kind of myth bust some of the myths around the
Oh,
Great Depression, and I don't have enough to completely bust this myth 100%. But everybody says that it was rampant speculation in the stock market, and everybody was nuts and buying, buying, buying. I looked at the price to earnings ratio of the U.S. stock market in 1928, and it was 14.
it was what?
14.
14?
Yeah, I think
Wow.
the S&P 500 was at 22 last week. So
Yeah,
it's
that's 14 would
it,
be amazing right now. I think everybody would buy.
and it didn't make much of a difference. The recession when the depression hit in 31 or 32, I think the price to earnings ratio was like 12. So it wasn't, that really didn't have much of an effect on the price to earnings ratio. This it did have a huge effect on earnings. But price to earnings ratio of 14 doesn't spell out rampant speculation and wild and crazy buying. It's nothing like the dot-com bubble was. Dave, I think you froze up on me, bud. I might have to stop this and resend. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
now.
yeah,
Where'd you go?
I don't
You
know.
froze.
Yeah, but the price that's nothing like the dot-com bubble.
The .com bubble was a whole nother thing, man.
Yeah.
That was a whole
So,
nother thing. Yeah, that was different than the housing crisis was different. Everything's different a little bit at time to time. I mean, right now, I'm starting to see on social media and in other sources of people now moving into default on their student loans, and they started posting, "Why is my credit score dropping 180 points?" Well, the student loan payment system went online in September. After 90 days, if you're not making any payments or contacting them, it goes to default. After it goes into default for X amount of days, then it hits your credit report. This
well,
is what happens. Like you gotta contact the student loans. I mean, it was on this COVID era. You don't have to make any payments thing for a while, but I mean, there's other options besides just ignoring it and not paying it.
yeah, make a deal. Do something.
So
When you
yeah,
can't pay it, then usually they'll postpone it.
Yeah, they'll something. They'll work with
Just
you.
just keep doing that. If you have to, just say keep telling them you can't pay it. Never pay it. Maybe that'll work. I don't know, but it's better than not talking
You
to
just
them.
pass it on to your kids if you have any, and if you don't, boom, gone.
Yeah. There's a book I want to recommend here. I haven't actually read it. So
Ooh.
I want to tell you that I haven't read it, but because I'm reading that all of the Berkshire executives read it, and one of the executives paid his kids and grandkids $50 each to read it, tells me a lot about it. It's The Psychology of Money. Um,
I've heard of this book.
yeah, and now I wish I'd written down the author's name, but here's
There
this
is a
book.
mindset. There's a mindset that comes with money, and there's a
Yeah,
mindset in order to get money and keep it. And it's to me, your goal shouldn't be I just want to get money.
yeah.
Because if your goal is just to get money, I think you're setting yourself up for failure from the beginning.
I agree. So the quote here is not to poo-poo spreadsheets and data, but there's a layer of behavior that sits above that. If you understand all the facts and the data, but you can't control your behavior, none of it matters. And if
Exactly.
there's a flip side to that, which is the person who has good control over their behavior but doesn't really know any of the facts, take a country bumpkin who saves some money and invests, that person can do incredibly well. I think that this is actually going to be a very important book for people to read during these times of volatility because it'll help you
Yeah.
keep your mind straight. Um, we've got all the information on how Warren Buffett values stocks. But this is going to be the flip side of this, and it provides the controlling of your behavior. And this is how, you know, um, an amateur can outperform a Harvard trained economist. In fact, almost all economists, to be honest with you, almost all economists are terrible at
Yeah,
stocks.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. As soon as you made that statement, I was like, yeah, I could teach anyone to outperform an economist. Give me a month with them, and I'll outperform them all.
Yeah.
Economists aren't good stock pickers.
So he
They are
says that
not.
there's no way an amateur can out. That's because the market moves erratically most of the time and illogically most of the time. It,
Right?
it really does. I mean, we're very rarely ever at an equilibrium of logic in the stock market. So you have to learn how to take advantage of both ways and understand the psychology that makes the market swing from one way to another. Um, but he says that there's no amateur that can outperform a Harvard trained cardiologist at open heart surgery, but in investing, the country bumpkin does very well, oftentimes, and the hedge fund manager blows up.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
want to recommend that book. And then also, if you want, and I'm going to go to some economists here, if you want a glimpse into why I think the way I think about tariffs, Henry Hazlitt, Economics in One Lesson, Wealth, Poverty, and Politics by Thomas Sowell, The Progressive Era by Murray Rothbard, and The Forgotten Man by Amity Shells.
So if if you don't care about why Brandon thinks that way, and you understand that this is just Trump making a deal, then just buy the dip. Put some money in some strong companies that are going to bounce right back, and you're going to make a nice, solid return. That would be my advice because that's what I believe is going to happen. I believe the holdouts, the ones that are going to last the longest, are Canada because they just running every infomercial after infomercial up there. I'm joking, but like we will fight, we will stand, we will impose tougher. Why not just make a deal? Just make a deal and call it a day. Quit being, it's
If this is the way that Trump is going, then somebody needs to buy these country leaders the art of the deal and ship it to them for free. That would be the best way to go. Now, let me ask you this question because energy stocks dropped hard last week over this
because of
news.
oil.
Expectations of recession, and that's why oil went down too, is expectations of recession.
That's not the only reason why I know. If you read OPEC increased their production of oil by a good amount over this past week, and everybody thought that why are they doing this? That's counterproductive to their own means, if you will, because when OPEC increases by millions and millions of barrels per day, that lowers the price, and directly lowers the price because they're such a big producer of oil. And you'd be like, why are you doing that? That's just going to hurt your own price you sell at. They're like, well, we're not doing it for that reason. And they're being very vague about why they're doing it, but they are doing it. They're
So to
pumping
me,
out
that
more
means
oil.
that they're trying to make possibly a deal with Trump because it's something that would make him happy.
Well, they're doing it, and it's lowering the price as well as recession fears, but mainly OPEC has been pumping out billions of more oil per day.
Some otherwise very good energy stocks like ConocoPhillips dropped pretty hard this week. Would you be a buyer or are you going to wait?
I would not be a buyer of any oil stocks right now.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no. I'm invested in the companies I'm invested in. If anything, I would DCA if anything.
Okay.
All right, so let's tie this in a nice little ribbon for our listeners here. What does this mean for stocks going forward? We've already touched on the volatility. We don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs for sure. Brandon has his guesses. I have my guesses. Um, you know, there's too much uncertainty there. I have a positive feeling that we're going to find out one way or another this week. However, I do want to talk because it is the first week in April. So what does that mean, Brandon?
Uh, April Fools.
It means it's the start of a new quarter, so that means we have earnings reports, new earnings coming out. Here's the one thing I don't want to hear, Brandon, from any company. I don't want to hear we did not make our revenue because of tariffs that were instituted after the quarter ended. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's not an excuse. You missed your revenue because your company did bad. The tariffs were instituted in April. That has nothing to do with what you did in Q1.
But Nike's got an excuse to downgrade their forecast for the future. For example, they moved half the manufacturing that they had in China to Vietnam to avoid tariffs, and now Vietnam is going to have a 46% tariff increase on the metal.
Vietnam is one of the countries that have come to the table over the weekend and has reached out to the Trump administration and has offered a deal.
Well, I hope it goes. I hope we
But
get a deal
But
because it's
Nike
really
also
tough.
doesn't report earnings till 2 months into the next quarter, so they have 2 months to come up with a better excuse. So first off, Wednesday on earnings. This one should have nothing to do with tariffs as far as what they report for last quarter, but it should have to do with more about the health of the consumer, and that's Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines. I would like to see some revenue growth. The stock has taken a hit. It's back down to the levels where I thought was the actual top of the channel for this stock at mid 40s per share. Brandon, you successfully called that it was going to move higher at that time. The last time it was in the mid 40s, you were right. It moved higher. Do you believe Delta? Are you going to listen to the report and do you think that they have a chance of going higher again?
I don't know. I want to see what, how many people have scheduled their flights out.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I usually buy my flights way in advance, and it doesn't save me any money. For some reason, you'd think it would, but it doesn't. But
No,
I
it
just
doesn't.
like if I want to go on vacation, I just want to get it done. So if I've got a vacation coming up, for example, if I did in June, I would buy my flights now if they were available.
You and
So
me both. I don't know why I do that, but I do. Also coming up this week, you have Constellation Brands. Now that one should have a effect, but with Mexico, they halted those tariffs. So Constellation Brands should actually be doing well. There's no tariffs. Those are Mexican-made products for a lot of them. Think Corona, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And I think that they're going to do just fine.
steel and aluminum tariffs may affect them still.
So let's see what they say. Because
Yeah.
steel went in effect before this last round. So those are already in place. And those are in place due to other reasons, which you and I have both said we both disagree on. We both agree on that we disagree on those.
Yeah.
But I would like to see what they say if it affected their Q1 or not.
I'm interested in them, and I've got Ambev on my watch list. It's been there for a long time, and I haven't bought it because I haven't found the right chance to buy it. So,
Gotcha. But my biggest earnings day for this week is Friday. So on Friday, Brandon, these are ones I want to watch very carefully to see what they say. And in regards to treasuries, interest rates, the Fed, we got J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, BNY Mellon, and BlackRock all on the same day.
Oh wow.
So that's a big day for earnings. I will probably cover one of them on the podcast next week, for sure, just to kind of see what they say, see what they call on the economy is going to do this year. If you went off the January barometer that we cover on the show, I said it would be a positive year. Let's see if any one of these financial companies has anything positive to say come Friday. When they report, it'd be interesting to see BlackRock, but because they have their hands in everything, and they've moved a lot into real estate recently and bottom up cheap. I mentioned that last year. Like this would be because we were talking about the commercial real estate problem in the spring of last year, and it continued in the summer. Everybody was mentioning it, but BlackRock was coming in buying up things on the cheap. Is that going to start paying off for them, or did they make a bad deal there? But yeah, I'm looking at those all those big banks on Friday to see what they say.
Okay.
What do you, would you are you more interested in what they say about treasuries, tariffs, or what?
I'm
I'm
interested in
just curious.
treasuries too because there's a New York Times article that I think is complete BS that said that Trump might start canceling treasury checks.
That's
Well, so I shouldn't say treasury check because the Treasury recently stopped issuing checks, so I shouldn't say it like that. But
gotcha.
canceling Treasury payments is what they said.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't, and
Uh,
that's not true.
yeah.
But um, I would be interested in hearing what they say about treasuries and what they think about the long-term fiscal outlook for the United States is. And let's not forget what the job of the banks is to do is to invest your money so they make some money off of it. So they're going to
Right.
have an outlook on the entire economy.
Plus, Jamie Dimon always makes some comment about crypto, and then he does the opposite the next week. He'll
Yeah,
say Bitcoin's the worst investment ever. The next week, his bank buys up 10,000 Bitcoin. So
yeah.
who knows? I'd be interested to see what Jamie Dimon says on Friday and Larry Fink. But all right, that was our tariff heavy conversation today. Not too much yelling and screaming. We did that throughout the week. We got it out on each other. 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, sending text messages to each other. That's how fired up we were all week, just to come here and politely have a nice discussion.
I mean,
So,
I hate to promote another podcast here, but I'm very interested in this uncommon knowledge episode that's going to come out with Thomas Sowell on the 15th.
then we'll just have to get someone bigger, won't we?
Right?
Peter Lynch. Peter, no. Um, let's get Carl Icon. There you go. That'd be nice. Carl, come on the show. Tell us how we are all idiots, because that's how he talks. You're just idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. Tell us, Carl. Um, all right. So thanks for listening. If you like us, hit the subscribe button. Please follow. Shoot us a DM. Shout at us on Stock Twits, Instagram, TikTok, or what have you. As always, we hope we have been entertaining, educational, and uplifting because we want everyone to make money.
Have a good night.